Hi there. This week we move into double figures with stage 10. We've covered a lot of the fundamentals of writing a basic composition. This week we're going to have a brief look at academic writing. We won't get into it too deeply, but I would just like to share a couple of simple points. Here we go. As usual, we'll have a look at the basic points of academic writing before looking at an example. I'll explain your task for this week before confirming what we'll do in class. You've all seen this slide before. Even though we are concentrating on a little more academic writing this week, most of the points here are still valid. You still need to be aware of the topic sentence and supporting information. You need to be thinking about your introduction and audience carefully. And, of course, you need to have clear paragraphs, each with separate themes. However, when it comes to academic writing, there are a couple of standards that you should be aware of. I'm still going to use the hamburger to explain this because it's an easy way. In academic writing, you still need an introduction. In the introduction, you still have background information, but you want to focus this on the reasons why you are doing this study. In the thesis statement, you should explain the main purpose of the study as always. Then, in the body, we have the literature review, which explains what former studies have taught us. Then, we have an explanation of the current study. Who were the participants? How did we gain the data? Where was the study conducted? And so on. After this, you explain what results you got and discuss what was interesting or surprising about those results. A good research paper should spend extra effort on the discussion because this is where most of the best information should come. I will also mention that within these parts of the body, you may use one or more paragraphs. It is not always easy to create well-balanced paragraphs, so don't worry too much if you can't achieve that. Then finally, in the conclusion, you need to mention what you want the readers to remember from your composition. Like usual conclusions, you can also talk about the future, giving ideas for future studies. Let's have a look at this week's example article. The first thing you might notice is that each section, including the introduction and conclusion, has a subtitle. This is common for academic articles. Also, the paragraphs are not quite as balanced as we normally like to see them. Again, this is okay in academic papers, as long as the paragraphs still have topic sentences and supporting information. Let's have a quick look at each section. As I said earlier, the introduction follows the same pattern as we have talked about in previous lessons. The background information explains the reasons for doing the study. Then in the thesis statement, we see the main purpose of this particular paper. Next, we have the literature review. This is where we summarize previous studies done by other people. When we use information presented by other people, or even earlier studies by ourselves, it is essential that we cite the person who did the study, as you can see here, and the year that that study was published. In this case, it wasn't a person, but a website where the writer got the information, and it was published in 2014. At the end of the paper, we must also add this to a reference list, which will also include other more detailed information. I'll get to that later. Next, we describe the study in this paper. We want to be thinking about who the participants were, where they were from, and the methodology of your study. You can find all of this information in this section. In the results and discussion section, we display the statistical results of our study. If you have done an analysis, which I haven't done here, you need to explain how you did the analysis, including any software you used. This paper includes a table, which you will see on the next slide. When using tables and figures, you have to make sure you refer to the table in your paper, like you can see here. The discussion section is probably the most important section, as it gives you a chance to talk about the findings of your study. You may use some citations here again. You can see one here with Shoebrook being the surname and the article being published in 2017. Here is the table that was being referred to earlier. Notice that it is called Table 1, which is written in block letters, and then a title on the next line, which is in italics with all the first letters capitalized. Finally, note that the vertical lines are missing, and the horizontal lines are only used for the top line, the line under the headings, and the bottom line. Finally, we have the conclusion. You can think about your conclusion in a similar way as we have discussed before. This conclusion summarizes the main points and then refers to the future by giving some suggestions for further research. This kind of conclusion helps readers who are interested in your work and might want to do a similar kind of study. I said finally, but in fact there was one more very important section, the references. Any paper that you have cited in the article must be referenced here. There are many ways of referencing, and these differ depending on the reference style and where you got the information from. But basically, what you need is the author or authors' names, that is, surname and initial, the year the article was published, the name of the article, and where you found it. In this paper, both of the references were from articles on the internet. If you get information from a book or an academic journal, the way of referencing is slightly different. You will learn more about this if you are interested in doing more research. Okay, well that was a lot of information. I hope you have managed to stick with me. This week, I would like you to try a simple study. The key word here is simple. Don't go out and try to do anything special just yet. I'd like you to choose one of the topics here, then get some simple data from at least 30 people. These can be your friends, classmates, or whoever. As I said, keep it simple. Once you have that data, I would like you to write up a research paper similar to the one you saw here. It will be a challenge, but I am confident you are up for it. Well, that's it for this week's video. How was it? Are you ready to change the world with some cutting-edge research? That's great. But before you do that, make sure you have everything prepared for our class to get the most out of the short time we have together each week. See ya!